The circumstances of his life dictates and sort of motivates him to overcome not only the odds that he presently faces, but the kinds of odds that will not send him back to wherever he came from.
I definitely believe that he's going to be the likes of Dangote in Ghana, if not beyond, because he's younger, he's fearless.
I was once a driver's mate, Accra, Medina, Accra. I was once a pupil teacher. I was once somebody's houseboy.
He was a guru boy, a clear agent, helping people clear stuff. Basically, that was what he was doing those days.
18th June 1971, a little boy was born here at Labadi in Accra. The poverty and struggles that surrounded his childhood offered him a very slim chance at getting a good education and a job to survive on. Born into the home of a poor father who worked as a carpenter, he is the 8th of 10 siblings. Daniel McKorley grew up with fire in his eyes for great success even as an adolescent.
In my adolescent age, what really transformed, I was a very disciplined person, and I think I grew out with the right attitude. I have a very strong mother who was always there to beat the hell out of you if you should go wrong. And this kind of a mother, an illiterate mother, and she did a lot for me. Looking at what is happening to my life now, I also believe is a grace of God. 1, 2, is because of my fighting spirit. 3, because I hardly give up.
I remember very well, it was one Wednesday afternoon somewhere in Fidelity Bank, and this was this young guy. He had a white shirt, tackled in with some jeans and with some very interesting shoes. So I was wondering, what can this young man do for me? So anyway, we met for lunch, and the first impression he gave me was like, he wanted to do so many things, and so there was nothing special. So we met again, this time in Holland, because he was supposed to have done something, so Minta put us together. And all the things he was telling me at the time was a bit fantastic to me, like, what is he talking about? And his way of thinking was a bit different from mine. I came from a totally different background, and I could see that his methods were not what I would want to, for a lack of a better word, practice at the time. But I tell you this, after a year of our meeting, I realized that whatever he wanted to do, he had a plan. And he wanted to start a certain logistic company. He had a certain mindset at the time.
He was a guru boy, a clear agent, helping people clear stuff. Basically, that was what he was doing those days. And so,
like hand-to-mouth kind of.
Yeah, hand-to-mouth kind of thing. Yeah. So that's how I met him the first time. He used to have a motorbike at the time, young guy, energetic, lovely guy. You see him, you can't resist not to notice or identify him.
What brought me into shipping was out of necessity, and I needed a job badly. I remember attending an interview at the Continental Hotel, now Golden Tulip, as a waiter. I failed that interview. I didn't know, but I dressed one day, I was called, I dressed nicely, I reported to work as a waiter. I got there and a nice, beautiful lady came out to tell, young man, you don't have a job. We failed you. That was a big blow. I mean, all dressed up to be a waiter, and you received a message you don't have that job either. So I started this job as a messenger. I remember those days I had to walk from Labadi through Hallmark to the airport.
Deep in him, he was born a trader. You know, he had the trader mentality. Oh, if I buy today and I store, in the lean season, I'll make a bit of up this thing, and I'll have supply. So I can. So he went into that business, and that's how the logistics business began. But it didn't just end there. Then he thought about it and said, we are importing so much, a lot of business passing through the ports, a lot of stuff that I can do with that. Why don't I set up a logistics business to handle all that? And then to not only just bring in the imports, but the exports that are going out. So then you went into shipping.
A client of mine said to me, oh, there's this young man that has just started a shipping company, and just give him a call. And I picked up the phone and I called. And then he picked up the phone himself, and I said, he says, oh, I know you. I know your business. I know Alio. And I said, okay, I would like to talk to you about. And he says, no, I'll come to you. That was the first thing that, actually I said, where's your office? I want to come and do business. No, I'll come to you. And the most interesting thing that happened is that probably within 10 minutes, he was where I was. I just told him about Osu, and then I remember he showed up. So he showed up with someone who was taking notes, and I would remember very well that he wanted to make sure that everything I said was captured. So he sat down and says, okay, what's the issue? And then I said, well, I have to clear goods, and I started to talk about my problems. He seemed to know the problem inside out. But anyway, he just quickly said, okay, I'm going to sort this thing out for you. But I do it the right way. I go through the right things, and I'll get you the right paperwork. So the next day, probably 24 hours later, I was in bed very late at night. I think about 11 p.m. or 12, around 11 p.m. or so. Then I got a call from my warehouse. The security guy says, oh, the container is here, the trucks are here. I was like, which container, which trucks? And he says, oh, the company, McDan Shipping. I was shocked. And they delivered 24 hours later instead of 72 hours, sent me my paperwork. And that impression got stuck. It was service, keeping of his word, integrity. It was just at the highest level. And for me, for being the CEO at the time where he had started the company and showing up, maybe before time, I won't even say on time, he actually got me.
But when I met Danny, I was actually in some kind of challenges. I believed everything at the time. If anyone walks to us and, came up with any fancy story, we believed it. We never did so much due diligence and so forth. So that got us into a lot of deficits. But when I met Danny, he said, look, my brother, you came into this country with a lot of money. The way you're going about your things is different. Let me show you how to do certain things. And he helped me, navigated me through certain things, how things are done in this country. And he saved me a lot of money. That was when I started taking him serious and actually became very closer to him. At the time, we had a deal on the table which was it ran into the millions. And just before we made the decision, I went to him and I said, what do you think? Just give me your opinion on this. And he said, look, bro, don't do this, don't do that. He had a funny way of talking. And in the beginning, I never took him serious. And exactly what he told me, it saved me almost about 800,000 at the time. And for me, that was when I knew this guy was a genius.
The circumstances of his life dictates and sort of motivates him to overcome not only the odds that he presently faces, but the kinds of odds that will not send him back to wherever he came from. But even more importantly, I think he's driven to succeed to a point where the people he grew up with, where the circumstances of his birth, even his friends, the point at which no one may have seen yet. And so he's a dreamer, he's a daredevil, more or less. He has that kind of inner capacity to not only want to dream, but to dream to do. There are many instances when I'm having a conversation with him and he just tells me he's going to do something out of the blues. And, very often he might just think it's a conversation. It's just many of the things where people, which people want to do, but, probably just go to bed the next time and forget about it. But the next minute you see him, it's done. And either you're being invited to the inauguration or he's just showing you pictures of, coming from the field and something that haven't, some monumental victories and some monumental successes that he may have chalked. So he is a dreamer, but he is the kind of dreamer who actualizes his dream. He tends to believe in the things he does and he actually is able to do them.
Something about him just captured my attention, that he had this tenacity of focus and, purposefulness about things he was doing. Then many years later, we met and we had a chat, a very good chat. And I realized that he was extraordinary in many ways. Many ways in the sense that he was very clear on what his aspirations in life were. He was very well defined in his way of executing that purpose or those ambitions and aspirations. Very methodical, and that's why I said that he has tenacity of purpose.
Thank you.
He's unique. He's a hardworking guy. He's straightforward. He doesn't take no for an answer. Everything is doable. McDonald is the kind of person who challenges every status quo, whether it is law or medicine. He will tell you that he needs to find out what exactly. If you don't go to McDonald and tell him that this thing cannot be done, he hates that. He will tell you that, look, push it. You go and let them tell you that it's not doable. But you don't assume that the mere fact that it cannot be done, then you just sit down and cross your leg and say, look, this is not done. So he doesn't take no for an answer. He's a fighter. He believes that everything is doable and achievable in this world.
Every single day I tell people, don't ever underestimate Daniel McKorley. Why do I say that? I say that because his level of intelligence, street smartness, candor, communication, and the ability to see between the lines. I'm yet to see someone that has all those personalities woven together. I saw it at the beginning, but I didn't get it when we first engaged. When you meet him, your first impression is, okay, he knows what he's doing. But that's only on the surface.
I can say that I was very determined. I was a fighter. I was a bit impatient when I was young. I grew patient when I became old. When life started revealing its real character to me. So looking back of my breakthrough is my attitude towards work. I haven't been lazy. Whilst all my friends are sleeping, I'll either be learning or be working. Those days I sleep 4 hours a day. I mean, till today I cannot even sleep more than 4 hours. By 4 a.m. I'm up. So even if I sleep 12 midnight, 1 a.m., By 4, 5, I'm up already. So the breakthrough came when I started looking at multiple streams of income.
And he said, when you make me a millionaire, I'll also be able to make thousandaires.
The more interesting part of him is his personality. He's very jovial. Every time we meet, half the time we are laughing at stuff. He laughs at himself. He laughs at everybody else. And he's extremely humble because he always relates everything to his earlier experiences in life and where he's come from and where he's going.
If I want to see figures, you'll be ready to give me figures.
Yes, I'm ready to give you figures.
Give me one reason why I shouldn't fire you.
He's both an enigma, he's powerful, he's authoritative, but he's the most warmest heart you can see at the same time. So you are seeing 4 or 5 personalities. He can be hard, soft, tough, warm in one space, in one conversation. I hardly see people like that. People are described as one personality, multiple personalities. He actually knows how to, let me call it, interweave what he needs at every given moment. So let's say he's sitting with you and he needs to use intelligence, he would use it. He's sitting with you and he needs to be street smart, he would. He's sitting with you and he needs to have a regular conversation, he would. He can talk to the tiniest person in the room and he can talk to the highest person in the room, depending on who it is. That fascinates me.
You didn't impress me much the last time.
Yes.
Are you here to be supported to make money?
Yes.
Or you are here to go and start another engine?
No. It is part of the project.
Frank?
Yes,
You're
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry I have to fire you.
In some ways, he's a split personality. He is a man of steel when he's fighting for what he wants. He is a man of steel, he's unbending when he desires something, when he wants it. For after all, to be a successful businessman, one needs sometimes to be a shark. You've got to fight it out there. I mean, you have competitors and everyone is fighting for the same thing. One has to be tough and one has to be steely. So he has the steely characteristic of a human being. And that's one part of him. And that's the reason I say he's split. Because the other side of him is a soft, raw, empathetic person. The one who has empathy for people, who has empathy for the suffering, who has empathy for people who basically lack. And it's because he's come out of a background of want, a background of deprivation, a background of poverty. And he's been able to break free of that. He's been able to build something for himself today for others to look on and think, oh my goodness, this guy has lived privilege, a life of privilege all his life. And it's totally not true. So for someone who's had the experience of pain and who suffered, empathy drives him, as I indicated earlier. But in the line of business, and when he sits in the seat of business, he is driven by steel, i.e. the one who may come across as unfeeling, who basically just wants things and gets things done and doesn't negotiate and is unbending. But that's the business part of him that gets him succeeding. And once he succeeds in the business parts, he probably play the Robin Hood and make sure that the poor are okay.
McDowell's Foundation, we walk the talk. When we promise, we honor it. His prize money is supposed to be $100,000, but we have spent far more than $100,000 on him.
This guy has the ability to close a deal, let's say just for math's sake, make about 10 million, and is willing to give like 8 million just for charity. Amazing. I wouldn't do that. But he's made me understand that giving is part of whatever, because giving comes with blessing. So he started preaching. I said, what do you know about the Bible? And that was when he even told me he was an SDA. And I said, wow, gee, quite impressive. So we went to the north, and I was amazed as to, what he had in mind and what he was doing and the impact and so forth. So it even got me a bit closer to him, and I just saw that part of him, which I don't think most people know.
Sometimes I wonder why he even chases money, because he doesn't spend money himself. You see people who are not even 10% as rich as he is, buy 3, 4, 5 cars, 20 cars. You go to his house, the car he drives is a car that is 6 years old and he's on patrol. I think that for him, his love for money is the fact that he wants to get the money and then share. You understand? So the last time I was laughing at him that all this talk you are talking about, you want to be the Dangote. If you get $1 billion or $2 billion now, how are you going to spend this money? All we will see is that McDonald is going to build a school in the north. He's going to build a school in the Volta region. That is all he spends his money on. I have been working for him for the past 2 years. He has never taken a holiday. He hasn't taken a holiday for even 3 or 4 days to say that, look, I'm going to Dubai, I'm going to America. No. McDonald doesn't know how to relax. He doesn't know how to enjoy life. You understand? So sometimes I look at him and I wonder, why are you always trying to? But I think it is just in him that, look, he makes the money and then he shares it. And he takes joy in that he sees people, look, I was the one who paid this person's school fees. I built a school here. I did that. For him, that is his satisfaction.
It is the empathy of feeling the pain of others. It is the empathy of understanding what people are going through. As I indicated, I identify with the circumstances of growth. And the more we talk, the more you feel a sense of pain from his side on how people suffer and struggle. I mean, take that little kid in some corner of the northern region who could be an astronaut when given the chance. But that child may probably never have the chance because he attended the wrong school, possibly, because he never had the opportunity of entering a secondary school, let alone a university. So he probably feels inspired by that prospect of someone in the corner of the country suffering in some shape or form. And this having come to his attention about a certain school in a certain part of Ghana still learning on the trees, then he says, do we have land available? How much is the land? Can we get it? Can I get some cost estimates of how much a six classroom block is going to cost? And then he gets his people together. So he has a foundation, as you know, the Magdan Foundation, in which he invests, not invest, but in which he puts money, from time to time, out of his own business to ensure that this foundation can drive his agenda of social intervention. So the foundation represents an opportunity for social intervention, because the problem in this country, in many cases, is that the absence of social safety nets is what drives many people to the brink of unfathomable pain. If someone is hungry, there's no one to feed him. If someone has nowhere to sleep, there's simply nowhere to sleep. I mean, he's going to sleep in the open. We don't have the safety nets. And so either you are okay or you fall through the cracks. And I think that routinely he uses his foundation, he uses his opportunity for social intervention to deal with some of these problems that come to his attention. And the foundation represents the vehicle to achieve that.
If you look at sports, we have a lot of school dropouts in the system. We have a lot of talents around. If you look at what I am doing to sports, the impact that is creating, some few years ago, you can see that Ghana tennis was down. I have brought it to this level. The kids are playing wonderful tennis. They are now having life. Some are traveling to Europe, US, and the rest to play tennis. And I remember walking into the stadium one day, seeing the kids playing tennis with a wooden racket. But right now, the impact is there. The biggest part of that tennis thing is people had been able to look at what I'm doing. Meaningful Citizens are come on board and they are organizing tournaments. So now, through me, there had been a lot of excitement in tennis. Looking at football, now we are building over 7 AstroTurf across the country. The one we have built in Lab. One day we were playing tournament, and I'm talking about impact. What really got me excited, during halftime, I just came out of the arena and walk around, I could count about 92 vendors. Some are selling nice water, buffalo, yam, potato, turkey. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. That through that park, the economic activities around the area is enormous. So that is very impactful also. Looking at the widows. Widows are one class of people in this country, nobody care about them. I started my widows project, I think about 6 years ago, and that's been very impactful. It's been impactful because widows now have somebody to look out for. We do medical screening for the widows and the aged. And if you look at we are building schools. We have built over 7 schools across the country. Just imagine building one school. A year, this school can educate over 300 kids. So just tell me in 10 years, one school, how many people that the school can educate. And this is the future. So I can go on and on and on and on. Now we are building skills training center to train 10,000 women in dressmaking, hairdressing, soap making, catering, and all that. This is what we are giving back to Madagascar. So it's all about the impact and what motivates me or what I look out for before doing all these things where I grew up.
He was one of the few people who had mentioned the name Dangote. Of course, I knew Dangote from the financial world, but he said one day we're having dinner and he said, look, Benji, I want to be Ghana's Dangote. And I said, what do you mean? You with your fancy, fabulous ideas. I said, no, I want to be Ghana's Dangote because, and in as much as I need to make money, one of the strategies here is to give.
He dreams, he eats, he does everything that he wants to be a billionaire, and he works towards that. So every time you are sitting down, you are talking to him, he's looking at a news item, they are talking about billionaires, Fortune 100 people in Africa. The last time I was having a discussion, when the list came up, he looked at it and said, see, there's no Ghanaian on that list. Next 2 years, I'm going to be the next Ghanaian, the only Ghanaian on that list. So that's how he thinks, and he works towards it. You can't distract him.
Let's forget that he is a first-generation entrepreneur of his family. He's a first-generation business person. And he's built already what one can describe, if one chooses not to be too modest, as an empire. You know, he's done quite well for himself, for someone who's a first-generation businessman, first-generation entrepreneur. The kinds of things he's doing and the kinds of projects, some of which I can't mention, you know, on TV, but the kinds of projects he's doing now, a lot of which are actually going to catapult him way beyond his current status. Dangote was not a Dangote until he became a Dangote. In other words, you know, you are not a name until you become a name. He is already a name in his own right, and he is doing well. He has done well up to this point in his own right. The SALT project, which is ongoing, which is public, as you mentioned, is a project with immense potential. And given the fact that he's Ghanaian, given the fact that he's in charge of this, is one that again should inspire and make all of us happy that this is something that hasn't gone into the hands of a foreign investor, but is a Ghanaian, and therefore whatever wealth is generated out of that goes into the hands of, first of all, Ghanaians who are employed there, goes into the pockets and hands of the local indigenes of Ada, and invariably to him as a major investor in this project. So the SALT project is one that can catapult our country.
I'm into SALT now because the world has changed, and I have the opportunity to be Africa #1 in salt mining and export. And I believe that is a challenge and also a privilege that when God directs you and gives you something, You have to show the difference. I do many things in my life for shaggy reasons. I mean, shaggy reasons in the terms that when people doubt you, as I said before, 99% of the people will doubt you. It's either you are making the biggest mistake of your life or you are making history. And I believe that it's about time some of us make that history.
He told me that, look, I think the world, the future is salt. And I'm like, please, don't push it. Now, this time it's too much. I have known people like the late PVs and so forth that had, you know, attempted to do salt business for years. And it's no chicken feed. But guess what? He started the salt. And I'll tell you this, the future, Ghana is going to be one of the few people producing salt for the sub-region and beyond. I was there a few weeks ago and I was amazed as to what is happening there. So he has the Midas touch and he's very focused. Once he touches something, he's like a Rottweiler or a pit bull. Until it's broken, he never, and he's very, very fearless. It's amazing the trajectory that he's on now. I'm just praying that people like this will be celebrated and every support or whatever we can to give him. But he's going places.
We are executing so far the biggest project yet of the portfolio. And like I said, because his vision is to meet the basic needs, it directly links with my desire to see people succeed in every space. Everybody who knows me knows that is what I live for. And I told him this, that I joined you on this project, not for any reason, but I feel that this project will leave a lasting legacy. And I want to be part of it. There are times you live for money, and there are times you live for meaning. This project, for me, is a project of meaning.
Here's somebody that straight from his youth, from the time I met him, he's always emphasized that we have all these raw materials, we don't have billionaires. He just couldn't understand. He says, we should create the billionaires, and he keeps hitting me on the back that you are the person in government. You are the people who should be pushing to create the billionaires. And he has to say this every day. Even the last time I saw him, he mentioned it, that you are not pushing enough billionaires. We have to create billionaires in this country. We have the resources, we have the labor, we have the young people eager and aggressive to do something. That is how we create the billionaires. Let's just go and do the thing and create. I even remember once I had a big argument with him on partnerships and foreign direct investment. He has his own view of how foreign direct investment should be used, because he believes so much that we should use it to push and prop up local business people, regardless of whatever persuasion they come from. So he's already very clear in his aspirations, and at 50 years he's done pretty well.
He called me one day and he said, look, Benji, I would want you to accompany me to the north. And I said, what do you mean the north? To do what? He said, look, listen, my brother, charity begins at home. That was what he said. And I said, what exactly do you mean? He said, look, I know that in the north there's a lot of poverty, and I need you to come and see firsthand with me what I'm trying to do there. I almost said no, because first of all, the north was light years away from here, and I felt, what is this guy talking about? It was amazing when I went with him. This guy has the ability to close a deal, let's say just for math's sake, make about 10 million, and is willing to give like 8 million just for charity. Amazing. I wouldn't do that.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I declare this.
He's also into the philanthropy space, and he's done a lot of stuff. I mean, I remember once he pulled me out of bed to go and witnessed a soccer match in Labadi. Another time too, I had to go and sit in this tennis thing, and I enjoyed it absolutely. The times when he's tried to drag me to the north to come and see this project or that project in Labadi, in Teshi, in all sorts of places. And sometimes I wonder, how do you have the time to balance all these things? I said, well, yeah, as I'm doing my work, and I realize that this might be important for the community. And he has a big community focus too. I mean, it's not about him alone. It's about, okay, these are my people. My people need to have it as much as I can. And if there's any way to let that happen, let me do it. So that philanthropy part of him is very much conspicuous, even as he's doing his work, you know. And he'll call me at very odd times and ask, where are you coming from? I'm coming from Takrady. Where are you coming from? I'm coming from Adan. So at this hour, you know, and he says, yes. And the next morning you call him, and he's off somewhere else at 7 a.m. And I say, why don't you sleep? But that has a tenacious nature that he has, that he keeps on going. Going, no rest every night and then we make some time and we share a meal together, you know, and it brings out the full man. But I think he's a major inspiration to many young people.
This is Magdan and his jury. A powerful self-made investor worth millions. Tonight, they will make or break the dreams of budding entrepreneurs. Magdan is ready to invest using his own money, but only in the right person with the right idea.
For example, the Magdan Entrepreneurial Challenge is designed to help people not necessarily find jobs, but to create jobs, because it is one that is designed for people who have creative talent to be able to build something for themselves. And so I think the last one that I followed, you know, the one who won, I think, you know, was involved in Shebat or something like that, but was someone who had a very difficult circumstances of, you know, in terms of growing up.
What do you have now? Currently, we have about 500 bags of shea nut at the house. Then in our accounts, our business honestly is behaving like a poor man. Once money comes from hand to mouth.
He won the $100,000 that was at stake, and he had a very creative business idea, which I'm sure at this stage, as we speak, with the support he had, probably is doing something great for himself. So we have all kinds of people out there in our country who can do well, but the initial, what I would call the initial blessing, and I think that's what he tries routinely to see if he can possibly assist from time to time with his own creative initiatives.
When I look at where I grew up, you can hardly survive. And if I have survived through there and today, God had blessed me, what can I do? What can I do to help? So watch my activities. You realize that they are all impactful. Anything that does not create impact for me, I'm not interested. I'm paying children's school fees. I have children across the whole country paying their school fees. On my 50th birthday, I'm adopting 50 children across Ghana. Yet I have over 200 children already I'm taking care of. I mean, these are permanent children on my foundation list, and that is one thing. I mean, investing into their lives. I want to see them grow to be the scientists, the president, the entrepreneurs in this country. I want to change the environment that I grew in.
I mean, the first time I got closer, I mean, I met her as the first wife, Abigail, sweet woman. And later he told me, Charlie, we for go house too. And I said, what's that supposed to mean? So yeah, that's my second wife. So, you know, I got to know both. And I said, look, man, I envy you. How do you do this? And I said, well, it's for big boys who have 3 balls. If you don't have it, please don't try. And, you know, till today I laugh about it. And I'm amazed as to how he does his things. He has a certain way of doing things that works for him. I'm a big fan of him from a distance. I mean, if I look at the way he brings his kids together, I mean, I come from a family of 7. My mom couldn't, but this guy has what, 9 kids or something? And until he told me personally who is from house 1 or house 2, I couldn't differentiate that. And for me, I think that's beautiful. To be able to bring that cordial relationship between 2 different families and still get things going. And yes, of course, financially, you have to be able to do that. But it's amazing the way he does that. And I really appreciate it. I may not probably be able to do that, but I think that's wonderful. And for the fact that he is also, look, since I know him, or since I've known him, you call him 5 o'clock in the morning, he's up. He's playing tennis with the kids, doing this with the kids, doing that. So if you think, if you look at it from a distance, most people might think that the guy is just into money and has no time for family, but that's very untrue.
My mother trained me well. Yeah. My mother trained me well. I mean, I cook. I cook for my family. I mean, my kids love my food. And once in a while, I gathered them in the kitchen and we cook. And they love daddy's food. I don't do that because I'm faking it. It comes naturally. Lucky for me also, I have 2 very good women around me who are very good cooks. So it makes the family a lovely family. But at times I have to squeeze myself into the kitchen and do the cooking. I think my kids, you see, I can prepare anything, but my kids love my jollof rice. Because I normally add beefy and beans, red beans with some salmon. Garnish it with some, so they love my soft, nice jollof rice. I cannot see myself so special, but I believe that I'm one of the luckiest ones. 50 years of my life hasn't been easy. I have touched almost everything. I've touched almost every nerve. And life had taught me so many lessons. And 50 years have been very graceful 50 years. And this milestone, I am saying that I didn't know I'll get here. I have the belief I'll get somewhere. But I didn't know it would be that fast and so soon. And here I am. I've chalked 50 years, half a decade of my life. And I thank God, half a century of my life. And I think God had been good.